edition live before midday. My name is Spence, and this is a weekly live that I'm doing every Thursday. Just sometimes it's going to be interviews, sometimes it's going to be me just reflecting on what I've been learning, what I've been seeing going on in the music business this week. And the first thing I want to do is look at an interview which I saw on Brandman Sean's channel. Now, if you haven't checked him out, check him out. He's one of the leading voices in music marketing, and certainly somebody who I get a lot of information from. His content's usually pretty good. And it was an interview with a guy called Chad Focus, who I admit never heard of him before this interview, but as the interview went on, I realized that this guy has been around quite a while. He's amassed quite a lot of experience, and even his story is very interesting. He ended up going to prison for stealing £4.1 million on company credit cards. But his story is more interesting than that, because what he's got to say about Spotify bots, and more importantly, for me, what I found even more interesting was about live music and how not just the industry promotes live shows and how they blow up artists, how they create this demand for live shows, but also how you and I, as independent musicians, can use these strategies for our own shows and our own work. So this is a little clip of it here, just to give you a flavor. And I'll just show you here. Let's see if I can get it on. There we go. Press play on there.
Concert going to sell out, and you're going to go see Drake.
Now, I'll break this down, though. With that in mind, now that people have a sense of how that works, drop that Lil Baby concert story.
This is really interesting.
So here we go. Lil Baby concert, Chad Focus. This is I'm the most unknown guy that ever got paid the most for, like, being an opening act, guys. I'm gonna break it down for y'all. If you local, you know that promoters are going to go ahead and charge you, and the local guys are come and perform for your acts that come to your city, your Yo Gottis, your Rick Rosses. Y'all familiar with that, right? We all from that game. So I always had my homeboys, and they would perform, and it'd be nobody in the crowd. Like, why are you paying $5,000 to perform for Rick Ross, and Rick Ross fans on here, bro? You performing at 2 o'clock and he performs at 9 o'clock. So what I did that was different is I say.
Now, I'm just going to stop it there, because this is interesting. You've heard of this, how to get on to like a big show, for example. So he's talking about Lil Baby. And again, this isn't generally my bag. I don't know all these artists that well that he's talking about, but I know they're big names in the rap hip hop world, right? So I know Rick Ross, certainly. So he's talking about Lil Baby and these big shows, right? So oftentimes it can be that you will pay to get a support slot on these big shows, right? So, and that's kind of fair enough, isn't it? Because you are playing, let's say, put it in another way, let's say, for example, you were supporting Ed Sheeran, right? I'm using this example because I'm a bit more familiar with the genre. That's the only reason. And you got a chance to play in front of, I don't know, 150,000 people at a big stadium. Now, would you expect to just get that for free? Unlikely, right? So a lot of acts will have to pay to get on in front of those kind of audiences. Now, the trouble, what he's explaining here, which is what people don't realize, is you might say, oh yeah, I'm going to pay 5,000 or 10,000 even to get in front of Ed Sheeran fans, but you are actually going to be on so early that people are still arriving, people aren't really paying attention, and it's kind of money wasted. Although it's a vanity metric, you can say, oh, I've supported Ed Sheeran, which sounds great, and certainly he's going to elevate you in terms of a story and exposure, but in terms of actually winning over new fans, it might not be as effective. So let's see how he's sort of replied to that.
You know what? I'm gonna be a promoter. I need ownership over the merch. I need ownership over the marketing. I need ownership over the visuals. I need control of certain things, and I want a certain percentage of the tickets. I want this percentage of the front end. I want this percentage of the back end. So I negotiated what I call an amazing leverage deal. I'll take care of the venue. I'll take care of paying Lil Baby what he wants, which we had a team of guys and promoters that paid Lil Baby. So he gets his 30,000. Moneybagg Yo gets his 40,000. You got the concert, you got the venue, and you got the mainstream acts. Now, all I got to do as a marketer is find the audience that wants to see Lil Baby and Moneybagg Yo. Next thing you know, I make it as a co-headlining situation. Come see Chad Focus and Friends, Lil Baby, and Moneybagg Yo. Now, and I know I can't pack a venue with 6,000 people by myself, but I can probably bring 200 to 300 people. I can bring some of my other local artists, and they can bring 200 to 300 people. But Lil Baby and Moneybagg Yo is going to bring them other 4,000 to 5,000 people. But when you look at them flyers, when you look at the promo and you see me all over it, you hear my voice, you see my content, you see my merch, it looks like it's a Focus ran event.
So what he's essentially saying here is he is flipping the script, basically. So what he's basically said, and this is just a little fraction of the interview. I'm just going to play that and just leave it at that. But check it out if you want to get the full lowdown on what else he has to say about Spotify bots, which is, I'll talk about that in a minute. But so what he's basically saying there is flipping the script. So instead of you as a performer going, oh, I want to get on a big show as a support act, and you're at the whim and mercy of other people, that basically it's not your show, it's basically making it your show. So instead of being the artist, you then start thinking like a promoter. So then you go, okay, if I book the venue, if I get if I hire the big acts and find the audience, then all I do, I make it a co-headline show. So I put me on the flyer as I'm supporting or co-headlining with this big name act. And then you're in control of it. You get all the money, you get to control, you get to decide when you go on, and it's a much better deal because you're more in control of the whole situation. Obviously, it takes a lot more money to do it. It takes a much bigger team to pull something like that off effectively. As you heard, he said he's got a team of promoters to promote it. So this isn't something you can do on your own. And I think this is what is the problem, really. Next level thinking. So if you're an independent artist and you're at this kind of level and you're thinking like, oh, I've got to put on my own show and I've got to do everything myself, then there's only, you're going to hit the ceiling pretty early on. So sooner or later, you've got to get a team around you. You've got to get a team that can put on something like this. And it doesn't have to be a big level to start with. You could try it with local acts, somebody doesn't have to be a big name like famous mainstream to try this out. You could just go with someone who has got more fans than you locally. Let's say you can only bring 10 or 20 people to a concert on a good night, and this artist gets 100, 150 regularly, right? So you can team up with them and say, okay, I'll put the show on, you bring your fans, we'll co-headline. Then that way you're getting in front of their fans and your own fans. It's a much bigger show. You're in control. You decide when you're going on, and more importantly, you get all the money, but it does take more responsibility. Then you can scale it up in that way. And this is what he did. Obviously, when you get to that kind of level, you have got to pay the artist first. So as he said, the artist will get, so if the artist can say, okay, I'll do it. If you're trying to get a bigger name artist, they say, okay, I want 10 grand, I want 20, 30, 40, 50,000 guaranteed to play. Then if you've got that kind of pool of resources, you can do that. You can say, okay, well, give you that money up front because you're going to make a lot more on the back end. And if you listen to the end of that story, he says he profited 250,000 off that. That's after paying everything out. That's profit. So, your first try at this might be you profit £250 after everyone's, or $250. But then you scale it up. So next time you're getting 2,500, so it all depends on the size of the venue, the size of the act, and it's a lot of planning. It's a lot of experimenting. It's a lot of responsibility, but this is the game. This is how you can be in charge of your own destiny. This is how you can really scale up your live performances. And if you think about it, the more people that you get there, And the better show that you put on, I mean, this is another thing, putting on a gig like this is one thing, but actually having a show that's going to keep people watching and actually want to come back and see you again, that is a complete another thing. And if you want help with that, if you want support with that, if you want someone to help you to construct a show that leaves people's jaws on the floor, that people go, wow, who is this? I really want to come back and see this again. Not just a gig, not just showing up and going, okay, we've got half an hour before we go on. Well, what are we playing? What's the set list? You know, how many people have done that? We've all done that, right? You think just because you've rehearsed the songs, then you've got a show. You know, that isn't the case. If you went to a West End show and you went backstage and they're all going, okay, so who's saying what then? And you're going to go there, are you? And I think I might just do this. I might, you know, rehearsing a show is no different, you know, than rehearsing a show. It should be like, you know exactly where you're going to go, you know exactly what you're going to say, you know exactly how you're going to transition from one song to the next, you know exactly at this moment this is going to happen and it's going to have this effect on the crowd. At this point you're going to be doing this, you know, and you know where everyone is and what everyone's doing. Nothing is left to chance. Nothing is, and if you do have to ad lib, something goes wrong, a technical fault, then you know that you can be spontaneous around that. And then as soon as you're back, you've got, then, okay, now I'm back in the script. Here I am, here we are in the story. That's where we pick it off. So you've got to approach shows like that if you want to scale up, you know, because just playing a gig, just showing up and going, okay, well, we've rehearsed the songs. That should be good enough, you know. The songs should speak for themselves. No, it's not good enough, I'm afraid. And this is what I see time and again. And I'm just going to change the name of this. It is essential that you here you go. It's essential that you have some preparation and you have a rehearsal and you kind of know what you're doing, and you putting on a show. Just going back to the if you're interested in that and you're thinking, yeah, I've got a big show coming up and I want to actually make it really special and I need some help with that, you can see, just click in the link in the bio and book a call. Let's talk about it. Let's see how I can help you. The other thing I want to say about this is, I'm just sort of bouncing around here, but the other thing I want to say about this interview with Chad Focus is, he talks a lot about Spotify bots and how he gamed the algorithm using Spotify bots. And people go, there's two different camps with Spotify bots. It just seems like that a lot of people use them exclusively just to boost the profile. So they've got like 2 million streams, and then people are impressed by that, people who don't really know any different. And that can open doors for people who don't know. You know, you can say, oh, he's got 2 million streams, we'll give him a gig. If it's a choice between this artist with 2 million streams, this artist with 50,000, it's kind of a no-brainer for some people. They'll go with the 2 million artists, even though they're all bot generated and they haven't got any fans really. What he's talking about is how he kind of used the bots to cheat the system, basically. But what he's talking about the industry, because if you let's talk about Spotify. Spotify, as you know, run by Daniel Ek. It's created. He was a programmer, right? He's a software guy, and that company, even though it's got 500 million users, is still not profitable. And how did that company actually start? It takes a lot of money to start a company like that, to the actual programming, the engineers, the kind of the system, the algorithm. It costs a lot of money. You don't just start that in your bedroom. It costs a lot of investment. Now, who invested? Check it out. Do some research into Spotify and see who the investors are. And you'll see that some of them are the record labels themselves. Now, I wonder what would happen if record labels have a sizable stake in Spotify, do you think they would want something back in return? Do you think they'd have some kind of control? Do you think that if you were an artist signed to Sony, for example, who are one of the investors in Spotify, early investors, do you think that if you were a record label if you were an artist signed to Sony, that there might be a slightly different algorithm for you? So you could possibly use bots to promote your artist and not get shut down, whereas someone who isn't affiliated or connected to that said record label, if they use bots, they would get shut down or shadow banned. It's a question to think about. And whenever whenever you look at anything, how things work, you've got to, as they say, follow the money. And the money seems to be pointing back to investors in Spotify. So I'll just leave it at that, and I'll let you make up your own decision, do your own research on that. So basically, there is one rule for the big labels, things that they can do that people like you and me, independent labels, independent artists, cannot do, because you're operating in a different algorithm. So just bear that in mind when you're getting obsessed about Spotify streams and you see people with millions of streams. What you got to think about is, if they suddenly put on a gig, how many fans of those millions of streams, how many people would actually turn up to the show and spend money on merch? That's, for me, I'm old school, so I think that's the real metric. That is a sanity metric for me, is people turning up, spending money on your show, who are willing to spend money on merch, who are willing to buy your music, who are willing to come back to shows, who are willing to support you on Patreon, for example. Those are real fans. People who click the like button, who stream a few of your songs on Spotify, they're not really fans, are they? They're not really going to support you with what counts, which is, at the bottom line, let's be crude about it, it's money in the bank, isn't it? So I think that's also what you need to think about. I'm not saying don't use Spotify, because it is a great tool if you know how to use it, but it is just a tool. And I think really people are much more likely to engage with you as a proper fan, like actually spend money with you, if they see you live and connect with you that way, than if they just saw an advert pop up and they directed you to a Spotify link and you listen to their track. So anyway, that's just my theory on this. So I'm very much about live, as you may have guessed. So if you're interested in that, if that's where you're at in your career, you want to start creating a better live show, if you want to build the kind of career that's maybe not as exciting as getting millions and millions of streams on Spotify, but actually is more about building up and converting fans to your own email list, who then you can develop your own relationship with. So no matter what happens to Spotify, you will still have your own fans. So that you're the kind of person I want to be talking to, and maybe the person I can help. And yeah, so it'd be great if you've got any questions. If you're watching this on the replay, leave your comments down below. It'd be great to hear it. I will be dropping back on here and answering any questions that you have. If you do want to get started today, if you need any help around your music strategy, if you're not sure where you're at, or you're not sure how to get to the next level, you're trying to build out a team, you're trying to improve your live show, then click the link in the bio, book a free call. And as I said, no obligation. If I can help you, I will. It might not be me that helps you. I might be able to signpost you to somebody else, but hopefully we can work together. And yeah, there will be more coming up here. Drop your comments down below if there's anything you want me to feature in these little sections. So I'm going to be going live every Thursday morning. I'm going to tie it to a time. It's going to be 11 o'clock CES time. I was a little bit late today, but hey, you've got to take messy action. Done is better than perfect, I always say. So let me know down below in the comments if there's any subjects, anybody you want me to reach out and try and interview. Did an interview early in the week with Ian Cooper, who had a lot to say about his story in the music business. Loads of great stories, and also his experience as a manager. Interesting experiences managing a sheikh who wanted to be an artist, and also his work with Simon Napier Bell, who, those of you who don't know him, he's a very experienced manager. Co-wrote "You Don't Have to Say You Love Me" for Sandy Shaw, and also managed Wham in the early days, George Michael, of course, and amongst other bands. He's a great author, raconteur, and he's got a lot of great stories. So he and Ian worked together on, and still are apparently, on live shows as well. And he's still going in the industry today. So, you know, that's the kind of thing that we're doing on here. So suggest to me anyone who you'd like me to talk to, any topics that you want to talk about in the music business. And yeah, do yourself a favor. Check out the video I was just talking about. This the video of Chad Focus. He's a kind of a controversial figure. This was the interview I saw with him. The bit of a clickbaity title there, but just listen to what he's saying and see what you think, because I think he's kind of talking a lot of facts, and he's basically saying, he's also talking about the game, the live music promotion game. So, like, say for example, again, let's use someone like, I don't know, Adele or Beyonce or someone like, you know, big artists. What tends to happen is when concert tickets are released, companies will buy up a majority of the tickets at the early bird prices, at the lowest possible price that they're sold at, which is obviously when they first go on sale. Hence, the early bird thing is a great strategy to use, because ideally what you want to be doing is creating a sellout show. You want to be selling out as quick as possible. So it's almost like pre-sale. So that's what they do. They buy all the tickets up, and then they give away some tickets to, you know, people who are going to turn up and be the crowd, get people at the front row who are excited. They give away, you know, tickets to corporate people, inviting, you know, sort of as gifts. And then they sell the rest of the tickets at a higher price. And obviously, as it gets nearer towards the date, they make it very scarce. There's only a few tickets left, so it creates another stampede. They also resell tickets on higher ticket platforms, so people are then buying them for, you know, 10x, 20x the original value. And then what can happen is, once, you know, they've created a buying frenzy and people who are madly trying to get tickets because they think it's the only time they're going to get to see this artist. And then what they do is, as soon as they've sold out, then they put another show on at the same venue on a different night, so you get a second chance, and then they do the same again. So again, it's all tactics, you know, all this stuff behind the scenes. It's not just, it's not what you think it is. You know, there's a lot more to it. The strategies that are being used, which this guy, Chad Focus, for all his, you know, and again, don't take my word for it, don't take his, do your own research. But what he's saying seems to make sense, and it seems to explain how, you know, 9 times out of 10, these big artists, they always sell out. You know, they always sell out, and they add different dates on. It's because it's not just that they've got a lot of fans, it's the way that that concert is marketed to those fans, to get as many people talking about it as possible, to get as much interest and as much of a buying frenzy as possible. And in that emotion, then tickets can go up a lot higher, because, you know, we're emotional beings. We buy on emotion. You know, if you think you've only got one chance to see this artist in your hometown, you're going to be that person who's sitting on the phone, ringing and ringing, trying to get on. And people say this, don't they? I'm on the phone for hours trying to get these tickets, and eventually they get them. It's the same with Glastonbury, right? They create this big story around the tickets, around the scarcity. You know, it's all about scarcity. Oh, and there's not many tickets left, and it's you know, you're not going to get in if you don't do this, and it's creating this emotion around it, because if you know anything about selling, and you could think about it yourself if you don't believe me, think about a big ticket purchase that you wanted to buy. How did you feel when you were buying it? Was it just like there you go, no emotion at all? Usually you're pretty excited, pretty like fearful, or pretty sort of, there's a lot of emotion around it. And then afterwards, I know for myself, I will then justify why I bought it with reason and logic and sort of intellect. But I don't buy with those things. I buy, those kind of things I can buy with emotion. And this is what it's all about. Music is a very emotional thing. And they manipulate you. They'll manipulate you into buying things quickly because obviously they want to make their money back quickly. They want to make their investment back quickly because they've laid out money. So think about all this, how you can use these tactics, these strategies that everyone's using. These aren't illegal things. These aren't illegal. It's just the way business is done. It's just the way people market things. It's just the way it's psychology. And so you can say, well, actually, I'm not going to do it like that because, I want to be, play with a straight bat. I don't want to join in these manipulation tactics. Fine. I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but if you're looking for the results, if you're looking to emulate bigger shows and bigger artists, then this is what you're up against. The bottom line, this is the industry. It's been going a long time. They're very experienced at it. They know what works, and it's a money business. They're not going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars of their own money into something that is a gamble. They only do that with sure things, and the way to make it sure is to control the market yourself through tactics and through strategy. So that's all I have to say about that, as far as I could say. Thanks for joining me. If you're watching this on the replay, drop me a comment in the chat down below. Let me know what you want to see, who you want to see on here. And I'll be back next week, next Thursday, with another live on LinkedIn on Thursday mornings. I will promote the next one a bit better. I'm sort of just starting these, actually. I'm just getting into gear, up to speed. And hopefully my aim is to bring you as much value as possible and just talk about current things that are happening in the music business, how they can help you as the independent musician. And like I say, if you're at a crossroads, if you're feeling a bit stuck, you need some support, then give us a call. It's a free call, and I'll see if I can help.